Hello everyone, and welcome to the Great Gundam Project, episode 161. I'm Jackson, I'm joined by M as usual.
It's Gundam time!
It's Gundam time. Welcome to everyone! It's a free episode.
It seems like it's been 3 years since we've had one of these.
Yeah, the first episode of every season's free, and Wing lasted 7,000 years. And now we're here.
Don't watch anime in lockdown. It just destroys your perception of time.
Yes, it really has. But we're here, and this is a free episode, which means if you have just clicked on this on YouTube, you are listening to the Great Gundam Project, Abnormal Mapping's Patreon exclusive podcast. Abnormal Mapping is a podcast network, and if you support us at patreon.com/abnormalmapping for $1 a month, you get the Great Gundam Project every week, and it's good. We watch 2 episodes of Gundam and 2 episodes of the backup show, and we'll be doing this till the end of time. Is basically the pitch, and we're 161 episodes in, so you know it's not like when we were at 20 episodes where it's like, oh, they're actually going to keep doing. No, we're locked in now. This is just our life.
Yeah, one of us have to die, and even then we have plans. We know who we're going to ask to fill in. So.
That's true. And it's not that they're going to say no at least immediately. That'd be rude if one of us dies. Anyway, thanks for no-selling that one.
Yep.
But we also have another segment, I guess, which is, which Pokemon is this? I guess we didn't have in the last free one.
It's at the point now where I feel rude asking you to guess.
It's Cyndaquil.
No. What are you talking about?
Isn't it? Didn't we have... Hang on. Did we already go... No, we already did Cyndaquil. We're out of starters, aren't we?
We're out of the starters, and thus you'll have no fucking idea.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I've got no idea.
Pokemon 161 is Sentret. Do you know what a Sentret is?
No, I have no idea. In fact, we'll do it this way around. Now I'll have to ask me if I know the Pokemon, and the answer is mostly going to be no. What is a Sentret?
There you go. I sent you a picture of Sentret.
Okay. Okay, I know this by sight, but I would never know this was called Sentret.
Yeah, it's Sentret.
It's a fairly cute Pokemon.
Yeah, as far as, like, this thing just exists to be, like, the Rattata of Gen 2 goes.
I feel like there's another one of these next week with, like, a bigger form.
Well, yeah, it evolves.
But I don't know what that's called either, so...
Yeah, no, that's why we have to stop doing the quiz at this point.
Yeah, we were originally doing a quiz when it was, like, Gen 1, and then when Pokemon people knew. And now we're kind of out of that point, but... knowing what Pokemon it is grounds you to, like, the progression of numbers more than the numbers themselves, so the segment remains in some form.
I like celebrating numbers, but unfortunately nothing other than Pokemon goes up to 160 and beyond.
Yep. We can't do, like, oh, that's the Clerk's number. Oh, episode 50.
Episode 64.
Episode 64, right, yes. All the hits.
It was either Pokemon or Nendoroid releases, and those are just going to be anime we haven't seen, so...
Yeah, there's nothing else.
It's another Hatsune Miku. Whoops.
Honestly, pretty good. The Mikus are good.
The Mikus are good, but I'd rather do Pokemon.
Yep. They should put Hatsune Miku in a Pokemon game.
Jackson, have you watched any anime this week?
No, I have not.
Okay.
It's been a very, very light week for me in terms of anime stuff. Other deadlines.
Well, that's true. I watched a film. I watched Macross FB7 Ore no Uta o Kike, which is Macross FB7. Listen to my song in English, but that didn't get an English release because it's Macross, and nothing in Macross is ever coming out in English, ever.
Yes.
Period.
Robotech.
Yes. This is I thought it was a crossover between Macross Frontier and Macross 7. I recently finished Frontier. I love Macross 7. It's not. It is a compilation film of Macross 7, but with the framework of the characters in Macross Frontier. Like, the old guy loves Firebomber, but no one knows what happened because they stopped putting out music, like, shortly after Macross 7 ended. And they're like, no one ever knows the story about them because they were on another spaceship across the galaxy. And they find some mysterious VHS tapes, and they go, "What's a VHS?" And he's like, I'll have to rent a piece, like a tape deck out of like this technology store to show you all what VHS is. And he shows them a bunch of VHSs of the events of Macross 7. As everyone is like entranced by how cool the Adventures of Firebomber are, and I am too. It's a good story. It's a better story than the things that happen in the Macross Frontier crew. But it's really funny because one, condensing a 50 episode anime into like an hour and a half anime is outrageous. It just doesn't. It's amazing how well it works, but that's only because Macross 7 is mostly a hangout show about a band that happens to have space plot, and they just talk about the space plot stuff. So it actually covering it is easier than you would have in another anime. Like, it's not like the Ideon movie where you're dropping half the like major plot beats. But also, because they use the conceit of VHS and they're working with a 90s show in 2012, they're remastering the show for like widescreen presentation. But in doing so, they give it all like this weird color bending, like it's a VHS, like color separation because of the VHS. So everything has this fake VHS effect over it the entire time. And it's like, it's not good, but it's incredibly charming.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. It's not like exceptional. There's nothing there that's new outside of like the Macross, at the end, the Macross Frontier girls sing the Macross 7 songs, and you're like, fuck yeah, that's great. But that's it, really. And now I'm on to Delta when I pick back up Macross. I'm almost done with watching all of Macross.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Glad
I'm hoping to
Macross...
get that done by the end of the year, but we'll see how it's foolish to make plans in 2020.
Oh boy, is it? Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that Macross, after like the shakiness after just Macross, settled into just being a show about people singing and hanging out.
Yeah, the thing is that Kawamori makes dumb guy anime and realized that he should stop trying to say something, and just makes dumb guy anime. And the stuff that's weird about Macross, the weird friction points of like, everyone is like technically an agent of cultural imperialism, and also there's a lot of weird race stuff about the Zentradi. None of that goes away necessarily, but it's not front-loaded in the way that like Macross Plus is a famous and like interesting and mostly like good to enjoy, like watch anime, but it is also like scaremongering about miscegenation. Like, that's just what the anime is.
Yeah. I do not have the ability to like, I'm more anti Macross Plus than you, but the parts where it looks amazing are a strong argument in your side.
Yeah.
Like when it gets to that concert scene.
Macross Plus is so fascinating. Really, it is like a linchpin of not understanding what you're walking into when you make an anime about stuff.
They don't walk, they run directly into it.
That's true.
But yeah. That's the anime we watched this week. Or you?
Yeah. So, format-wise, I want to just explain to people we are going to watch 2 episodes of Oath MS Team every week. Of course, our backup show is Gunbuster and Diebuster. Each of those is 6 episodes long, so we're going to be watching them also 2 a week. We'll start with Gunbuster, then go to Diebuster. Obviously, we are going to be covering the science episodes of Gunbuster, but not this week. So there's a free episode. I think they start after episode 2, so we'll cover the first one next week. And like the I guess the first 3 or something. I don't know. They're short. They don't matter that much, but we are going to talk about them if you are so inclined.
Yep, I watched them. I was like, okay. I don't understand the science. I'm very dumb.
They're cute.
Yes.
So that will be next week when we talk about that stuff. But other than that, I guess we should probably get into the anime.
Yeah, let's do it. Mobile Suit Gundam, the 08th MS Team, is the show we are watching. This time it is a 12-episode OVA released in 1996 to 1999, January 25th to July 25th, 1999. It says Sunrise 95, so I thought it was 95, but no, came in a little later, I guess. And it is a UC OVA set in the One Year War. Directed for the first half by Takayuki Kanada, who tragically dies halfway through and is replaced with Imanosuke Ida, and he directs the second half of the show. Wikipedia says first half is written by Akira Okeya, and second half is written by Hiroaki Kidojima. Music by Kohei Tanaka, made by Sunrise. And yeah, it is the third of the UC OVAs in the 90s.
Yeah. Also worth maybe before we get into talking about this, it is like the thing that aired third on Cartoon Network back in the day. Like you got Wing, you got G, and then you got 08th MS Team. I guess you had First Gundam airing around the same time, but like this is a lot of people's introduction to UC in the West.
I think G Gundam's after.
Oh, is it after First Gundam? Okay.
Yeah, because G Gundam airs in 2002, so it can't be interrupted by 9/11.
Right.
So it's actually Wing and then 08th MS Team and 079 at the same time.
Oh. And you wonder why the Western Gundam fandom has a hard time parsing UC sometimes.
Yeah. And then immediately Shah's counterattack. So, like, just, it's all Toonami's fault.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the basic premise. I guess we just get into the episodes.
Yeah.
The first episode is called War for Two.
All right. Normally I bring summaries that I write or put together. We were on a deadline for another podcast, our game podcast this week. And so I had a friend of the show, Heather Alexander, write summaries. She offered. You can find her at TransGamerThink. She did go at length in these summaries. So I'm going to have to do some editing on the fly because otherwise we'll be here all day. Heather was overzealous, likes the show a lot. She will be here in a couple episodes as a special guest. So look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So it is 0079, of course. There are mobile suits fighting in the jungles. And we come across this group of MS teams. I guess the first one introduced is the 04th MS team. But they all have Gundam ground types, which are fake-ass Gundams. I don't know. We'll have to address this, I guess. But in Gundam, there was the goddamn Gundam. Maybe you've heard of it. The one that
RX-78-2.
Yeah. And then they made the Alex, of course, because Amuro kept breaking the Gundam because he was just so powerful. And they're like, we need to give him a new Gundam. Didn't get to do that. The war ended. Now we're in the era where suddenly there's way more Gundams because now all these GMs, or what should be GMs, are just Gundams, but they're like crappy Gundams with like exposed cockpits that you climb into like it's a scope dog. And I wish they were scope dogs. That'd be way better.
Oh, scope dogs. Gundam can't do scope dogs.
Yep.
Yeah, we will get into it with how the Gundams are portrayed this week because I feel like they're walking along a line. If it could just be, what if the Earth Federation decided to call all the Commander GMs Gundams just to make people feel more special? But
I mean, I feel like that is what they did to the audience.
Yes, because they do have characters go, damn, this isn't the GM at all. This feels so much better. And I'm like, I'm watching the show. I don't think it is. But we'll get into that as we go. So yes, fourth MS team in the desert. Jungle, not the desert. Sorry, getting my bottoms confused.
So we meet some of our characters. We get Captain Nicard. He's like a drunk guy. He's like an old prospector dude, is what he reads like to me. And he's drinking as he's talking to a lady with red hair called Karen Joshua, and they're arguing about their commander not arriving yet. and their previous commander, broke under the stress of war and is gone. So they need to get a new one. And he's like, you broke his brain by being a lady. And she scoffs at him. That's what's happening here.
This old guy is like an extreme anime cartoon, even by the standards of Gundam, which, I mean, it starts a trend.
Yep. Walking into the hangar is another cartoon man who is Elidor Massis. He's the guy who pilots the truck. He's also just like into his Walkman, listening to some music.
Yes.
Goofs on the ground. Not the goof, not the goof. Mobile suit goof, but goofs.
Yes.
We're in space. A Federation shuttle is headed towards Earth. A bunch of soldiers are playing cards. They're having a good time. And then there are two other soldiers sitting there not having a good time. And one of them is our protagonist, who is Ensign Shiro Amada.
Yeah.
He's excited to be going to Earth. He's amazed at how large it is. And that it's really different than Side 2 because he is a space noid. We're not yet at the point where the idea of, the Gundam protagonist is a space noid who is not politically loaded because it's 0079.
Yep.
The other guy with him is Michael Ninorich, who just seems like a brown noser. He seems very self-serious. He's reading and does not seem to care much about the Earth. And then Shiro's like, I'm going to drive all the Zeon off of Earth. Because that's the world he lives in which all the bad guys are Zeon and we're going to defeat them, and that's going to be the end of it.
Well, good news for him.
Yep. Michael's writing in his journal to his girlfriend, who is identified as BB. I was like, could that be anyone we know? And no, I don't think so. Gundam is not quite in the era of everyone is connected to everything yet. I assume we'll get there at some point.
I mean, it often is at that point, but I feel like this show situates itself pretty disconnected on purpose.
Yep. They see a light off the side of their shuttle and go and look, and there's a battle in the debris field nearby, in which a Zaku, a test pilot or test type Zaku with like high mobility stuff on it, is fighting a bunch of GMs. The Zaku is like half Zaku, half Rikadam. It looks sick as hell.
It's a pretty cool suit.
Yeah. The GM are trying their best, but they are GMs, and GMs are categorically useless in all possible configurations. And so it gets like half blown up, and they send out a distress signal. Shiro goes to the captain's like, I need to help. I'm the protagonist. I can get this done. And like, you don't have a Gundam. What are you gonna go do? And he's like, wait a second, you got a ball on board, right? And like, yeah, I guess. And so he gets in the ball, and if you don't know what the ball is, before there were mobile suits, they were still fighting a space war. You still needed guns in space, and so what they gave people was a fucking escape capsule with some arms. I assume it's like construction robot, but they strapped a cannon to the top of it, and
yes.
That's the ball. It's just a cockpit with some arms and a giant cannon. And that's what the Federation had as Zeon showed up with Zaku, and it went really poorly for them for a long time.
For several months, yeah. Destroyed, yeah.
Anyway, he gets out in the ball. The captain's like, I don't think he's going to do this thing. I think that guy's went off to die. But he goes out, and the shuttle door opens like it's going to launch like the Zeta Gundam, but the ball comes out, which is the best scene in this episode to me.
It is really funny.
And so he grabs a sheet of debris with the ball and rushes the Zaku, so it's not going to notice him. By the time it does notice him, he uses it as a shield. And so, he goes past the GM, talks to the pilot. The pilot's mad that he was defeated, and Shiro engages the Zaku. And it's a great time. They have a battle, and he grabs onto the Zaku with the ball, catches it basically, and the two of them force themselves into like detente because of that.
Yeah.
Zaku tries to kill it with the He-Hawk. It blocks it with the ball arm, and that's it. That's what happens. They fire at each other, and both of their mobile suits are disabled, and they have to get out of their suits. So they get out and leave into the debris field, and they have a chase. They're going to fight. And that's when Shiro realizes that the Zeon pilot is a lady.
Damn.
Yeah.
Remember last week when I was like, oh man, look looks like there's not going to be any, like, ridiculously overwrought romance in this.
I knew you were wrong about that.
This poor lady getting booked basically worse than anyone in Gundam getting owned by a bull in the first episode.
Yes.
In the test Zaku. Like, oh. God damn.
Yep. Yeah. So they at the transport, the soldiers are looking at the damaged DM and are like, "Man, I can't believe you survived that." And they talk about how they destroyed all of the Zaku. Normal Zaku, but the improved Zaku was too much for them. They're wondering about Shiro. He only has a couple hours of oxygen left. Michael's like, "Oh, he's dead. We shouldn't look for him. It's fine. He was grandstanding and we should just go back to Earth and leave him for dead. Doesn't matter. He's just an ensign." Which makes Sanders really mad. And he yells, and they're like, "Oh no, we gotta find him. We gotta save him. He's gonna be our new commander." And so they do that.
Yes.
Shiro is drifting through all the wreckage. They get onto like a wrecked ship and climb inside and have a gunfight between him and the woman. She gets shot in the arm. No, she's damaged from the battle, right? Yeah.
I'm fairly sure he shoots her in the arm in one of the exchanges.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, her gun's empty. He gets to her and realizes that she's injured, and he immediately takes pity on her, and she's like, shoot me. I don't want to be a prisoner. And he's like, I'm just going to fix your arm up and you're not going to die from asphyxiation from your air escaping. And so he drags her inside the ship and they take off their helmets and he tapes up her arm, and she's like, why are you helping me? I'm the enemy. And he's like, well, I don't know, actually. I've never actually met a Zeon before. I thought they were all monsters, but you're just a nice lady and I'm a boy in an anime, so I'm going to like you, is what's going to happen.
Yes. He's such a boy in an anime.
Yes. Her name's Aina, but I don't think we find that out in this episode.
Yeah, I think that's later when she's back at Zeon.
Yeah, but we'll just not fuss around about question mark lady.
Yes.
They search the ship as they're just like talking, having a good time. They're trying to get out of here. Like, oh, who are we going to contact to get fixed? Should we see if we can find the Federation? If we can find the Zeon, what are we going to do? They split up. Shiro notices his watch has been broken, and then Aina gives him her personal watch, which is clearly a MacGuffin because it's a giant like pocket watch with wings that has like a button on it and is containing either like a super virus, the plans of the Death Star. I don't fucking know what's in it, but something's in it.
Yeah.
Let's see. On the bridge, they didn't find anything useful. They're like, and she's like, what's Shiro's deal? You know, he's a bad guy. I thought all the Federation guys were oppressive monsters. And it turns out he's just a nice boy. What are we going to do? Shiro discovers fireworks. They set them all off, which signals help for them. Aina notes that the exploding ship is like, it really does look like fireworks when ships explode in space. And they think about how the war is just like this. And then they're like, they're both like, we're both going to be at Earth soon. And like, wait, why are we both going to Earth? Oh, are we going to fight each other? Shit. But that's what's going to happen. And a bunch of smooth jazz plays over the top of it because the music in this show is really good, actually.
It's really on the nose.
Zeon gets there first. Shiro's like, tells Aina, you should go meet with your team. I don't want to get captured, so I'm going to go the other direction. And they tell each other their names. She floats back to her squad. Shiro realizes after she's gone that he forgot to give her back her watch. The Zeon team bounces as Sanders' suit shows up to rescue Shiro, and everyone is back on their ships. Michael notes he needs to rewrite his letter to his girlfriend. He's like, damn, that guy who went off to die, turns out he survived. Shit. Sanders is like, let him sleep. He's been through a lot. Michael's like, their orders arrived a moment ago. We've both been assigned to the 08th MS team, and our commander is Shiro, this guy, this loser who's asleep in the other chair. And everyone salutes him, but they're interrupted by a broadcast over TV. And that thing that they're interrupted by is Girin's Garma funeral speech, Sig Zeon. Maybe you've heard of it. First Gundam's happening.
And then one of them says, I hear there's a big offensive happening soon. And I laugh because I remember the 15 years till Odessa Day in First Gundam.
they all stand around and go, we're really going to have to destroy those Xeon bastards. Shiro opens his eyes, looks at the watch, and we continue on to the next episode, the end.
Yeah.
Actually, the next time on is like, did you not get enough fucking mobile suits from the OP? Well, guess what? Next episode, there's going to be tons of fighting in the jungle. Also, it's an OVA, so we got some boobs for you. There you go. Gundam.
Yes, they do go like, oh, was this too, like, sedate for you? Check it out. And I go, damn, I could be watching Bottoms right now. Which is really mean of me, but I feel like... accidentally, not through trying, we have accidentally set up our 8th MS team in a bit of a hard spot by watching all of Vodums before coming to Gundam doing this.
It doesn't help. Like, part of it also is like, we watched UC. We've seen everything of Gundam and spent a long time overthinking it.
Yes.
And so the OVA that's just about cool mobile suits, like, when I see Aina and Shiro fighting each other in this empty ship, I'm like, I guess I am not too much of a coward to ship Amuro and Char in First Gundam, but these people sure are.
Yep. Yeah, and they're like, oh, look, they've realized that war is bad, and they like each other, is a very, like, this happens basically every other episode between every Tomino show.
Yeah. Some
version of this. And it is treating it with a lot of import here. I really didn't like this first episode. The second one, we'll get into that a little more.
The thing for me that was really surprising about this episode is how much it feels like broader anime tropes have just like landed on Gundam like a hammer. Like, say what you will about G Gundam, but it's doing such a specific martial arts thing that it doesn't feel like anime tropes in the same way. Like, this is like a plucky protagonist and the star-crossed girl that he likes, and the guy who's like kind of snide about he's running off and getting himself killed, that dumbass, and then the gruff adult guy who's like, no, it's very serious. I protect this boy with my life.
Yeah, everyone feels like a very stock trope more than a character, at least in the initial introduction. They haven't had like time to define them yet, but they are introduced with all the weight of like, it's this guy from a 12 anime, like all of them. They all have these dynamics.
Also, I guess I have some question of how old Shiro and Michelle are supposed to be.
Yes.
He's an ensign, which means that he's an officer, which means he's probably at least Bright's age, or so like 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
But because he's anime protagonist, he could be anywhere from 15 to 22, and I'd believe it.
Yeah, I'm going like 19, 20 is my guess.
Yeah, that's my guess also. I mean, he's literally a new ensign, just like Bright Noah, straight from Earth. So we have a signpost for what green ensigns are like in Gundam, right? So we might as well use the signpost we're given.
It's almost unfair that it has to be a Gundam show, because you say, oh, he's just like Bright Noah, and I go, man, Bright, remember Bright?
I do remember Bright.
And he's only had one episode, but this guy's no Bright. In many ways.
To be fair, I expect him to be responsible for less war crimes than Bright Noah.
I know, but I love the war crimes. I love how much he is a Democrat about committing war crimes. He'll do it unless someone calls him an idiot and punches him in the face. And then he'll do some more. Bright Noah. But yeah, it's just a very broad episode in this first one. And I didn't really like the two... the love story they're setting up, at least. I think that I don't really like... how do you pronounce it? Is it Aina?
Aina, yeah.
Aina, yeah. She is too...
I mean, she doesn't have a personality in this episode. Maybe these first two. She is just girl in like a very stock way.
But like overwhelmingly so, which is weird because when she comes out of the mobile suit, she's like in a red suit, and there's a moment like, wait, are they going to do a thing where he beat up Char? Are they really doing this? And no. Thank God.
No, because the Char shows up next episode.
Yes. But she gets out, she's got a big like red suit, and she's like, oh, this is like a serious pilot. And then she starts talking to her, she's just like, oh, I am just helpless girl. Have my watch. And it's kind of a lot. I wish she was more defined as a character and not just that. But I'm sure she'll get more to do later on as the show goes on. But it was definitely surprising because I associate Gundam as like slightly better about the women characters, even while the plots are all this.
I don't know if that's the language I would use.
I'm trying to say that like Tomino's Gundam is very like the women of Tomino of Yusi are often very like well defined and then treated really badly.
Yes.
This is a poorly defined woman who has so far been treated much better.
Yes, fair enough. That is more accurate. Yes,
is the thing I was trying to say about the difference here.
The 1 Year War is no place for a meet cute.
Yes, Isolina has literally just happened this episode. This is the same time because that's at the end of the Isolina episode.
Yes, Isolina's fallen off of. No, that's Haman. What? She blows up. She just crashes. She kamikazes her mobile suit, right? Or like her ship.
Isolina's standing on top of the thing and just falls down.
I thought that was Haman.
No, Haman's in the mobile suit.
Oh, yes. Haman's the one who crashes. Right. Sorry. Yes. I mixed up the two blonde ladies who sacrificed themselves for their dead husbands and boyfriends in First Gundam. It's been a while.
But it's Isolina because that's when Gama's funeral's going on.
Yes.
So yeah,
she literally falls off of her plane and dies. It's really sad.
Gundam. But yes, that was the distinction I was trying to make there. Not to say that like Gundam treats women good or anything, but that it's just coming at it a little differently.
Yep.
And I mean, there's a million characters in this, and so I guess it makes sense. They're also stock, right? Like it's an OVA. You gotta get everyone in 20 minutes.
Yep.
But yeah, I enjoyed the second one more. So, do you want to get to that
Before we
one?
go on to the next one,
we have voice actors. We have voice actors, right? We're doing a new show. Hit me with the voice actors.
All right, so I did 4 voice actors. Turns out pretty much everyone in the show has done 8,000 roles, and I just picked ones I thought were interesting to both of us, which I think says a lot about our taste, or things that I'm like, I recognize this is an important anime, so we're going to talk about it. So if there are gaps in this, that's on me. You can go look these characters up yourself. But Shiro Amada is voiced by Nobuyuki Hiyama. He is Hiei in Yu Yu Hakusho. He is Guy Shishio in King of Braves Gaogaigar, which is a show. If we're going to watch a super robot for a backup show in this podcast, it's probably going to be that one, would be my guess. He is the voice of Black War Greymon in Digimon Adventure 02. That one's just for Jackson. He is someone called Maruda Azrael in Gundam Seed. All these voice actors are in Gundam Seed because Gundam Seed, apparently they just called literally everyone they had in their Rolodex for Gundam Seed.
Yeah, that checks out.
He is Uzu Sanagayama in Kill la Kill, who's the teacher with the like kendo stick. Maybe you remember. You watched a little Kill la Kill.
I did. I should go back to that.
He is Seiichi Kinoshita in Shirobako. He voices the Musha Gundam in Gundam Evolve, which we'll cover someday. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, there's more Musha Gundam.
Yeah.
Good.
He voices Batsu in Rival Schools, which is one of my favorite fighting games. He is the voices of both Nightmare and Siegfried in Soul Calibur, and he is the actual ass voice of Adult Link in Ocarina of Time and Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, can we get one more? Yeah.
Just that like when he falls from a great height.
Yes. Oh God. That's an iconic role right there.
Yes, absolutely. I was so excited when I saw that one.
Yep.
Aina Sahaline is voiced by Kikuo Inoue. She is Kasumi Tendo in Ranma 1/2. She is Electra in Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water, which is anime I really need to see. I feel like maybe I'll watch that soon because we've got Gunbuster happening. She is Caridad Yamato in Gundam Seed. She is Belle Dandy in All My Goddess. She is Cecile Krumi in Code Geass, one of the scientists that works under what's-his-face.
Yep, I remember her.
She is Grace O'Connor in Macross Frontier. She is Lust in Full Metal Alchemist. She's Palm in Hunter x Hunter 2011. And then she's a bunch of characters in Metal Gear Solid. She is Rosemary. She's the boss. She's Sunny. She's Chico.
Yes.
Yeah. Michel Ninorich is Hiroyuki. He's Dende in Dragon Ball Z Post 1996. He is Makoto Hyuga, one of the computer boys in Eva. He is Clotho Buer in Gundam Seed. We'll get there.
Oh, Hyuga and Eva. What a dumb character.
Karen Joshua is voiced by Mami Koyama. She is Cassilia Zabi in Mobile Suit Gundam.
Maybe you've heard of it!
Fucking great. She is Kiyaya Bufu in Space Runaway Ideon. One of the best anime.
Oh, goddamn.
She is the voice of Arale in the first Dr. Slump series. She is Ryoko Mendo in Urusei Yatsura. She's Launch in Dragon Ball. She is Jessica Edwards in Legend of the Galactic Heroes. She's Talia Gladys in Seed Destiny. She's Queen Serenity in Sailor Moon Crystal. She's also the voice of Chiyoko Fujiwara from her 20s to her 40s in Millennium Actress, the Satoshi Kon classic.
Nice.
Yeah. Fucking stocked ass voice actors here. Just people who... all the hits.
Yeah, if you can get like a gig doing voice acting, you really get to keep that gig. God. That's cool. Cool voice actors.
Mm-hmm.
Show stacked. All right, let's do it. Let's go into episode 2. Episode 2 is called Gundams in the Jungle.
Yeah, so everyone is on Earth now, and they're in the Jeep, head towards base. Ashiro's meeting everybody, who he's now commanding. All these people who are older than him, that he's now the boss of, because that's what war is. Leave it to this OVA to make the young, officer who comes in and, controls all of the people who actually know how to fight the war, the protagonist of the OVA.
Yeah,
literally any other war story, that guy's the villain.
It's a very weird choice, to the point where I'm like, this might be the thing that makes it interesting.
Yes.
Because it's like, what if Bright was in charge of the white base, but everyone didn't die?
Yeah.
What if Bright was just in charge of people who knew what soldiers were?
What if we had 6 Miles O'Brien's and one admiral showed up?
And he was 15.
Yes.
It's a very weird, because it's Vodens would never do this. Vodens is very directly about the old guys shitting on all the shitty troops who don't have any words and anything.
Yep.
So yeah, this is the part where I don't, my initial reaction to this was a bit but it's a difference that makes it stand out that I hope they do things with.
Yep. They're all excited seeing the ground Gundams walking the 06 MS team out to their mission. Then they report to Battalion Commander Kojima. Even the boss, the new boss has a boss, and it's this guy. Everyone gossips about how Shiro beat up a Zaku in a ball, and they're like, man, that's sick. And they're like, unfortunately, he has the team killer in his squad. Who could that possibly be? We'll find out later.
I feel like you wouldn't want to keep a guy around if he's called the team killer, but whatever.
There's a reason why. We talk about it later. They talk about it later, because he might have been a team killer for some nebulous reason, but he's also Shinigami Sanders. Sanders the Reaper.
I do like that every anime still has to struggle with translating that in a world where, literally every human being who likes anime has already watched Death Note. So
everyone knows what a Shinigami is. Just it's fine.
It's fine. Yep.
I guess this was not true when this aired in the West, so.
And you still shouldn't translate it that way, because everyone can hear it who does know, so you don't need to do extra work for that.
Oh,
but it does make it funny.
Speaking of translation, it's worth bringing up. I didn't put it. It's not in the summary, and I tried to put it out of my head. But there's the bit. I don't know if it's in your stuff, where the first episode has a big fucking slur in it. In the first 2 minutes.
The first, it's the second line. It's right there.
Yes. A bunch of Federation pilot or mechanics or whatever, use a homophobic slur, talking about officers. I don't even remember who they were talking about.
They're talking about the 4th team.
Yes.
Those blanks in the 4th team.
Yes. Sabworth, member of our community, wrote in with clarifications. The Japanese word that they use here is homoyaro, which is rudely a sexuality-based insult. So while this is you're whoa, excuse you, that is what the Japanese is also.
Yes, that is just in the show. And
apparently the dub calls them pansies, which is only lesser because nobody cares in 2020, but is also basically like, meant to be a homophobic slur.
It comes across as like, look at these shitty military guys. So it's not one of the things I'm like, this is a really bad thing in the show, but it is definitely a choice that you probably wouldn't make now.
No,
but it does come across as trying to like show how shitty military guys are, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I know about Federation soldiers. Absolutely.
Yep.
Anyway, Kojima informs the O8 that the Xeon set up base in the area, and they've got to do something about it. Outside the tent, people are asking about Shinigami Sanders, and they're told to keep quiet about it. Kojima tells the O8 to be careful because there's civilians in the jungle. You can't just go shooting up the jungle. We cannot do a Vietnam. This is supposed to be a lighthearted OVA.
All right, now get in your Vietnam ships. Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, Elidor runs over to talk to Nicard, and they're in a Jeep, and they ask about Shiro, and like, at least we're not going to be bored with this kid running business. Elidor asks if they want to bet on how long Shiro's going to survive. Unfortunately, he's a protagonist, so the answer is the entire show, maybe not the final episode.
You've got a 5-minute window in the final episode where anything can happen, and that's it.
Yes. Everyone gets the mechs ready, and as they prep to head out, Michel learns he's going to be working as the assistant in the sonar hover truck as a gunner. This thing's cool. This giant hover tank. The one problem with Gundam is we never got like the tanks and jeeps side of the war. It was just Amuro and the super robot.
Yes.
Shiro looks at his Gundam. He's like, 01. They never call this a ground type. And they don't really call it a Gundam much. They mostly say this mobile suit, and it's weird.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what like we talked earlier about this. Like, I don't know exactly how they're trying to do this. Is this just like, have they just called this a Gundam? And like, no, because there is a bit where someone says this like feels substantially different to a GM when they get in the suits.
But he says that because he's got a beam saber in one, right? Like, is that just a matter of like, this is him convincing himself of that in that situation?
Exactly, and I'm curious how it'll go going forward, because like the idea that they just like called the suits Gundams and just made them slightly better GMs is, that seems like what the Federation would do. Yeah,
because the thing about these ground Gundams is like they don't like they have the Gundam head with like the V-fit and everything, but everything else about them feels like even shittier than the GMs we see in like Jaburo and First Gundam. Mm-hmm. Like they have to open up the top of their cockpit and get inside of it, and then it's like a fucking window, right?
Yes.
There's just like this shoddy quality to them that I think is like really interesting to me, because to me, First Gundam is defined by like the Federation didn't have anything, and then suddenly they had this core fighter that slots into the giant Gundam and gets everything done, like literally wins the war single-handedly.
Yeah, and there's no core fighters here.
Yeah, it's weird to me because like I didn't realize until watching this episode how much the idea, like UC Gundam to me is a show about a plane that slots into a robot.
Yes.
And it's weird to see the idea of a Gundam in 1 Year War that isn't that thing.
It is strange, especially as like the gun cannon and the gun tank are like visions of, they're support robots. They are not the super robot. They are like visions of what 1 Year War support robots look like. But these are nothing like these are tanks, not gun tanks.
The gun tank and the gun cannon don't have V-fins, right? Like they don't have the Gundam head on them.
But it's not like people here have their own version of a gun tank. They just have a boat and a tank. Yeah.
So what this ends up seeing like is like really early Federation mobile suit, like worker robot suits, just got Gundam heads slapped on them and beam sabers put on them and sent out to go fight a battle. Like it feels fake. It feels like a lie that they've been telling these soldiers that you've got a Gundam too. We've got 6 Gundams here, just like the people out in space have a Gundam.
And the Gundam has like, what's it done at this point? If this is right after Garen's speech, or right before even, when because they've already had the commander for a while and he's left, so
yeah.
The Gundam's like literally just come to Earth and done like gone to New York and fucked up Gama, and that's it. That's been enough time for like them to have, all right, 8 Gundams in the jungle, let's go.
I'm pretty sure this won't happen in this, but I'd love for Shiro and his ground Gundam to see the actual as Gundam walk by, and it's like 2 meters taller and way cooler, and like, shit, I never had a Gundam at all. This is a glorified GM.
I mean I mean, I don't know how like interested they are in this kind of like canon stuff, and I'm not even that interested. I would rather do something, intentionally cool, I guess. But the Alex still exists, right? And the Alex exists because the Gundam is not enough to contain the like new type power of Amuro.
Yeah, but the Alex is in the text. It is a missing link between the Gundam and the Zeta Gundam, or the Mark II even, that is meant to like evoke Zeta aesthetics in the One Year War and be like, this shit could have come into the war. It didn't, because it accidentally got blown up. But it could have. Think if Amuro was at Al Balku in this fucking thing.
But I mean, if they're developing the Alex, then like by definition, these Gundams have to suck ass.
Yeah,
because they're already in a like secret bunker somewhere trying to make like actually like more improved Gundams. They have just slapped heads on these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the Xeon base, a ship lands. Aina gets off, and she embraces this guy. I don't think is identified by name in this episode, but he is called Gineas. And he is Aina's big brother? She says big brother. I don't know if that means actual big brother or big brother in like a Lala Shar sense. We'll find out, I guess.
Yes.
It's nighttime. The team goes out. Shiro gives him a little speech. He's like, I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to meet you all yet, but we're going to win this and we'll come back and then I'll say hello to everyone and then we'll know each other. And so they head out, and Shiro is suddenly in like the pilot suit in the robot, and I had this big like moment of like, oh shit, Gundam, right?
Yep,
because he's just in the Amuro suit. He's also the only one in a pilot suit. Everyone else is just like in their like camo tank tops and stuff.
Because they are in a jungle. Like he's not in space. This is the ground Gundam.
There's no reason to be in like a normal suit, but he sure is.
Yes.
He is just profusely sweating as they march in the jungle. Karen's like, time to go radio silent. And then they put on like infrared and Vodom shit is happening. Elidor's like, I wonder how long Shiro can act tough when he's in this situation, sweating himself to death in his fucking robot because he's a dumbass.
Yeah.
There's a big battle in the jungle with some Zaku. It's pretty sick. Here's the bit where I look at. This is a weird OVA for me because, like, we watched 0080, War in the Pocket, and we watched 0083, Stardust Memory, and both of those are, like, really grognardy, like, when it comes to, like, the robot stuff, it really focuses on how, like, greebly and, like, violent and, like, intense mobile suit combat is. And this is, like, another look at OVAs, which, like, they had the money or whatever, but they put it into, like, atmospherics and not the part where the robot battles are, like, intense and overwhelming and, like, incredibly detailed. Like, there's a bit in the first episode where we see that shot up GM, and it looks like kind of the shot up GMs in 0080. But when the violence happens, we don't see the violence we see in 0080, where GMs are riddled with bullets and, like, fall over like dead bodies, and then the blood pours out of the cockpit because someone has been shot inside of that. That's not what this show is.
No, like, 0080 is, like, concerned about like mobile suits as a metaphor for violence on actual human bodies in a way that basically no other Gundam is. Like, that's its thing.
Yeah.
And this is much more about like, okay, we need to. I mean, this episode is like, we need the Vietnam aesthetics, please. We've watched some war movies, and we want to put like, we want to situate Gundams in like, not in realism in the sense of like real people or anything, but in the sense of other actual genres that people are familiar with to contextualize what a Gundam is beyond Gundam, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, the fight happens. Shiro's struggling because he's not in 0G, not used to fighting on a planet. Karen tells him to stop, like, retreat if he can't do anything. Sanders attacks a Zaku and fights it with the beam saber, and that's where he's like, this is no GM. But also he has a beam saber, so it's easy to say that when you have, like, the death sword, right? Like, using a GM, that thing just has a machine gun.
Yep.
And this is because it didn't really come up much in First Gundam because it's not really that show. Like, the difference between like having a beam saber versus having a heat hawk is such a radically different idea of like what a melee weapon is.
The beam saber is basically a lightsaber in that it goes through anything. It just goes through things.
The heat hawk is an axe that you have to like charge up because it's like not even a sharp axe. It seems like it just has a blunt end that will then heat up like a beam saber, but is not a beam saber.
No, there's effort involved there. Whereas like Amuro doesn't even really use the beam saber often as like a slicing thing. It's often just like pokes it through the cockpit and the guy's dead, just like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so easy to say you're in another world when you got one of those.
Yeah. In the battle, Shiro had managed to press ahead and fell out of communications range with everyone. So they don't know where he is. And they're like, oh, should we go after him? Should we like send out a search party? And Elidor's like, if we do that, Shiro's the laughing stock. We can't have our commander be a guy who got lost on his first mission. We just have to like pretend he's out there doing shit on purpose and go back.
Yes.
Sanders waits by a bunch of wreckage of the other mobile suit team that has been destroyed, and the sun starts to rise, whatever. Shiro in the jungle leaves his cockpit, takes his suit off. He notices that Aina's watch, which he's still carrying. He like stumbles through the jungle, falls into like a muddy river, gets covered in leeches. He's like, this planet sucks. Well, take me back to space.
Yeah, big mood.
It's hot. It's sticky. There was air conditioning in space. There weren't leeches. Anyway, he finds some clean water, washes off, drinks some water, and then sits by the water as the sun is rising and the day is beautiful. And suddenly, in the pool is a naked girl, and he is entranced by this naked girl. He's like, gee, she's nice. Pretty sure this girl's underage. Shiro, go to jail.
Yep, Shiro.
But also the OVA is not like about that. It is extremely like, look at this hot lady with topless. Isn't she beautiful? And then she notices him watching when his watch goes off and fires a gun at him. And you're supposed to be like, yeah, she's naked and cool. Because
instead I'm like, Shiro, you're a moron.
The 90s OVA aesthetic of we are selling you like laser discs, so we're going to put boobs in it. Never stronger here than here.
No.
That is what OVAs are to me. And it's weirdly not true in like some of the 80s, most of the 80s OVAs I've watched, but the minute you say you got an OVA, I'm like, oh right, there's going to be blood and boobs. Like that's what people are paying for.
Correct.
We cut back to the Xeon base where Aina and Gainax are having tea. Gainax like, I can't believe we lost the high mobility Zaku. And she's like, don't worry about it. You're building a mysterious prototype called the Absolus, and once it's ready, the war will change. And then it pans directly above them to where they're sitting under a portrait of Degwin Zabi, just to show you that these are the evil Nazi Xeon. And then she's like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to get it done. We're going to finish that thing and win the war. And then the clock chimes and she's like, Big brother, please take your anime disease medicine.
This is the funniest scene in these two episodes.
Yes.
Because last episode, right, was all about Shiro being like, I've now met a Xeon. They're just people too. They're not like cartoonishly evil, just anime villains. And then she comes home as like, welcome, look at my massive painting of Hitler. Get in your robot suits. And it's like, excuse me? As he just like, waves his hair and then has to take his anime disease pill. Just so ridiculously cartoonish, especially coming after an episode all about how actually they're just people.
Yep. Shiro is walking through the jungle, spots the Zaku as the birds fly up from where it's marching through the jungle and sees it, so he runs back to his mobile suit to get it done. At the base, Karen and Sanders are waiting for Shiro to get back. Sanders like, we need to stay put, not wait for orders. And Karen's like, I don't know about that. I assume you just don't want to be Sanders the Reaper again. The guy who managed to kill a bunch of GMs with a single, a bunch of Zaku with a single GM. I think it's 6. And he's like, that was a different time. She's like, if you were lucky. If you weren't the team killer, you would have been an officer by now. And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. The backstory for another episode.
Yes.
In the jungle, Shiro is getting ready, stabilizing his gun to attack the Zaku. The Zaku, with only one arm, rushes forward with the Heat Hawk, trying to attack him. But Shiro fires, blows up the Zaku. He's like, I got him. One enemy done.
Yep.
As the girl from before watches him from a tree and is like, another episode. She's in the next time on. So next week we will talk about her, I guess.
Woohoo.
At the base, the soldiers are all making fun of Karen for having a commander that only lasted a day because they went back to base. She pulled rank, sent them all home. Like, it must be the curse. Michelle writes a letter to BB saying, oh, actually, the commander I said survived actually when I thought he was going to die. It turns out he died day after. But as he's writing that letter, Eleanor bursts in, like, Shiro's back. And Unit 01 is marching into base on autopilot as Shiro's asleep in the cockpit, which seems incredibly dangerous.
Yes.
And that is the end of this episode.
And as it's like, sun in the background.
Yep. I gotta say, watching these episodes, I feel like reading the summary pointed out the comedy of the show to me more than when I watched these episodes.
Especially this second one, yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, Heather, for these summaries. I'll probably pick up the summary duty after this, but it was nice to have someone who already likes the show writing these summaries, giving it just a little bit more spin to let me appreciate it, because, gotta admit, the big jungle fight doesn't really work for me when it's sanitized Vietnam Parable. I've already watched a better Vietnam Parable anime that is actually about digging into this stuff.
Yes.
And by that I mean both Vodums and Melolink are about this, but way better about understanding and respecting that this is aesthetics that come out of a real modern history that is important to acknowledge, right?
Yep.
The part where they mention that they're civilians, but we never see them or interact with them outside of this one girl who clearly is tied up in the war in some way, is, I feel like, ignoring your problems when you want to make a Vietnam Parable, right?
I assume they'll go into that later.
Yeah.
Because, they have to get the robot action in this. I assume these were sold 2 at a time, and they need to have a big action scene of robots in the jungle.
I actually don't know. I assume that they were sold 1 at a time after this, but maybe the first 2 were together. That wouldn't surprise me.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
They were sold 2 at a time, and then 1 at a time eventually. I think the next one are 2, and then then they start being more spread apart.
Yeah, I was going to say, this thing goes for 3 years. There's no way they're selling these 2 at a time the entire time.
It's clearly meant to be that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And, we keep mentioning Vodens. If you've not seen Vodens, it's really good.
Yeah.
Because, yes, all of the, fake Vietnam stuff there is so much more specific. And also, the way the Vodens approaches being a story about war crimes is very different to how Gundam does it, because Gundam usually does it through the idea of the Gundam as a representation of state power. It's Amuro just saying, I'm in the Gundam, I'm gonna just wipe out this when he flies away from his mum and wipes out their base. Because he's in the Gundam, and then just America comes and destroys you. And it's just a different level of metaphor as opposed to Vodums, which is much more about the ways in which the machinations of a military structure lead often abused and completely disposable individuals to be in situations where they are then committing extreme examples of horrible violence against places they do not live, and that's how the Vodum stuff ends up working to me. And they haven't really tipped the hand as to how they're going to address it here. I assume, just because of who I am, that you can't make a show about putting Gundams in Vietnam jungles without addressing the way the Vietnam aesthetics work and are built out of a evil war that America waged and fucking lost. Because that's the other thing, is that if a Gundam is a representation of imperialist state power, usually towards an American, it's what the Earth Federation is. It is the Western control of the entire Earth, and you can't bring the Gundams to Vietnam without acknowledging the fact that America fucking lost that war. They had all the guns. It means nothing. So we'll see. It might just be copying the aesthetics and not, because they're not they have not said where they are. I assume they are closer to Jabro rather than actually they're just stealing the aesthetics of Vietnam movies, at least. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't do it. M left the call. M went AFK, and I was like, I'm gonna vamp my entire point. I'm gonna monologue straight through. They're gonna come back, and no one's gonna know they were gone. But that's not what happened. Instead, I'm sitting here in this Skype call, talking to no one, and that's a real shame, because I think I did okay. I think I lasted as long as I could, but you can't monologue forever. Podcasts are good because there's two people on them. I think about doing YouTube videos sometimes, and I just, I don't think it'd be as good. I almost listen to you talk to myself.
Hi.
Hello!
Sorry, I was going to piss myself if I did not run away immediately.
I almost made it. I was doing my monologue. I kept going. I kept building on my points, and you'd just gone too long.
Okay. Did you wrap up, or what were you saying?
No, I was just saying. The thing I specifically said was they're borrowing all these military Vietnam aesthetics, but by putting Gundams in the jungle. But America lost Vietnam, and putting the imperialist American robot in the middle of Vietnam aesthetics. I don't know how you build on that without acknowledging that the overwhelming power of American military actually did not, they didn't win when they destroyed Vietnam. They just committed horrible acts.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't have a follow-up to that.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll edit. We'll see how I edit that.
Okay.
I didn't edit it. I left it all in because I thought it was funny. There you go, behind the scenes. The other thing I wanted to mention is, the shot at the end where it's doing the most obvious homage with the sunset in the background as the Gundams walking in.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was releasing that at this point. Oh no, they might actually be ahead of by 2 weeks. If this is January, when I think of that shot, I don't necessarily think of the Vietnam stuff they're evoking. In this context, I think of EVA Unit 3 walking in.
Oh right, yeah.
Which, if they're in January, that might actually not have happened yet. But that's a fucking sick shot.
That's true. It is a sick shot.
Anyway, that's that.
Is that it? I think that's all I have for 08th.
Yeah, that's the 8th MS team. It's definitely the most I've been down on the show watching the first 2 episodes. I feel better having talked through them.
Yeah.
I hope to go up. Lots of shows that I've been always excited going in and then have gone down as it goes. I hope they go up as it goes is my expectation. Well, and let's get into our backup show. Our backup show for this series is Gunbuster, and eventually Diebuster, but first Gunbuster, also known as Aim for the Top in Japan, because it is a parody of Aim for the Ace, a popular sports anime and manga from the 70s. Gunbuster is a Gainax OVA directed and written by Hideaki Anno, also written by Toshiko Okada and Hiroyuki Yamada. Music again by Kohei Tanaka.
Yeah. getting work done. Also is the composer for Diebuster, which we'll get to. So
Yep.
Worth pointing out, this is the first thing that we've covered for GGP that me and Jackson have both seen.
Yes.
We're going to respect the rules about timeline and only cover the things in the episodes that are given to us every given week. This is just, for me, I picked this. One, I think Gunbuster's fucking sick as hell, and I wanted to talk about it. Two, it fit our schedule. But three, it's a test for in the future. Someday we're going to be done with Gundam and have to cover other anime, and we'll probably cover stuff we've seen before.
We don't have to be coy about it.
Yeah.
One day we're gonna have to talk about Code Geass.
Yeah, but I mean, even beyond that, like,
Yes.
we watch anime. I'm not watching anime now to preserve GGP
Yes.
content in the future, right?
For like 7 years from now, what a stupid thing
Yeah.
to think about. Yeah, no, I can't think. Yes.
Anyway, Gunbuster. Our protagonist, Noriko Takaya, talks about how much she loves her father and how she's going to grow up and join him in outer space to fight in the space wars. In 2015, her father died in space. His ship, the Luxion, was attacked by mysterious forces in space called the Space Monsters. And we cut to 6 years later when Noriko is training to be a mech pilot with all of the other trainees. And by that, I mean they're all in the robots doing jumping jacks and push-ups and cheerleader like pyramids.
This is the coolest part of the show. Is this one peaks so early? Immediately, robots doing push-ups is such a cool bit.
Yep. Yeah. Her friend, Kimiko, watches her looking wistfully out the window at her Onisan, who is Kasumi Amano, who is like the girl who's good at everything. She's just an amazing pilot. Noriko wants to be like her, and Kimiko's like, well, we're still just a beginner. Like, she's our senpai. She's great at this. And, we'll get it done. And then they meet their new coach, who is literally the coach from Aim for the Ace.
Yes.
He is just a 70s shoujo man who walks in with like he's got like a cane, and he's very serious, and he lives behind his sunglasses, and that's his whole thing. Noriko is skipping rope like normally, and Kimiko's like, why are you so bad in the robot? Why do you you're so good at being athletic, but you can't do the robot at all? And she's like, well, when I'm working my body, it's fine, but when I'm in the robot, I can't like think about moving the robot and with my body and like be aware of my situation at the same time. It's just too much for me. I'm bad at it. And then the bullies come to pick on her, and by that I mean 3 girls in their robots show up to menace this girl just standing there on like the blacktop.
Yes.
Kazumi shows up, tells them to like screw off, don't menace her or whatever, and then she offers her condolences to Noriko's father, who is famous, and gives her some tips. And Noriko's like, oh, but you're a genius in the robot. I could never be like you. And she's like, no, I just practice a lot. You practice, you get in the robot, you'll get good at being in the robot. That's important. And she's like, I fell down the first time, but I kept practicing. And then she gives her a sweatband that Noriko continues to use for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
The principal gives everyone a speech as they're all lined up about how important it is to train hard and go fight in the space war. And the students are gossiping about how 2 boys from the boys' school were selected and sent off into space to go be pilot candidates. And they're like, I wonder who's going to be selected in our school. Definitely Kazumi, but who else? And Noriko's like, oh, I wish it was me, but obviously it's not going to be her. She's bad at piloting. The coach is introduced as Koichiro Ota. He is very important, very severe. He turns off all the balancers on the robots, and everyone has a hard time controlling it, except for Kazumi, who's good at everything. And Ota orders them all to do 50 laps in penance for not being able to stand upright. Noriko can't even run in her robot. That's how bad she is. And then Ota's like, well, then do the laps on your own. And so she does and runs around. And then the next morning, turns out she was selected to be the second candidate along with Kazumi. And everyone's stunned. And how weird and unfair it is. This girl can't even pilot. Is it because her father was like a captain of the spaceship in the war? And yes. She runs away to hear Kazumi questioning Ota in like a dark 70s shoujo room about why this is happening. And Ota's like, I was a survivor of the Luxion, and I'm responsible for what happened. I need to make sure that she goes out in space and finishes it. She has the potential to pilot the Buster machine. And it's like, oh, what's the Buster machine? We'll find out. He takes off his glasses. He has a scar. He's very dramatic in this moment.
He's ridiculous.
Noriko is like, everyone hates me because I was elevated to success. What do I do? And Kimiko's like, well, maybe you should practice and earn it then. And she's like, oh, right. I guess I will. And she goes to her robot, which is like covered in graffiti about how she's stupid and sucks. And she gets in and sits on a tack that was placed on her chair and cries. She's like, this is too much. I can't do this. She begs Oda to change his mind. And he's like, look, you have to understand. And he shows her Kazumi running up the stairs with like iron sandals on, Rock Lee training with the weights. And he's like, look, her hard work is why she is good. If you work hard, you will also be successful. I think you have potential. I want you to realize it. I want you to do something. Work hard. And so we get a whole training montage of her, working out, being good at the robot, figuring it out. It's sick. Mm-hmm. The bully girl shows up and she's like, why wasn't I selected? Am I worse than Noriko? Is it me? And Kazumi's like, look, we're fighting a space war. There's no time for your childish pride about being number 2 student when we're trying to like beat the space aliens. Please. And she does not take this well, so she goes to Noriko and is like, time to duel. They have a duel. Reiko is winning. And just like, she's like, no one will ever accept you. Noriko remembers Ota telling her to, depend on herself. So she turns off her monitor, goes full Luke Skywalker, which enrages Reiko, who's like, oh, are you making fun of me? But Noriko jumps in the air, does a lightning kick. Reiko defeats. Kazumi's like, oh, she learned the lightning kick already. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Ota's like, all right, you succeeded. Now we're going into space. And that's what they do. They head in the shuttle and they go off to space. The end of episode 1.
End of episode 1. Hooray.
Yeah.
It is done.
It is done. This episode's so goofy. The boldness of Anno to be like, we could write backstory for this character. We could write an arc. What if we just homaged an anime everyone's already seen already? And that's like the entirety of her early character development. We don't have to do it ourselves. We have 6 episodes.
Yeah, I've seen the 8th movie. I have not seen the whole show because it's not translated.
Yes, I wish. I tried. I really want to, but yes. When I watched the first movie, there was none of it translated. I think the first season's done now, but
yes, a group did like the first. Last time I checked, it was the episode 14. I don't know if they finished the season or I don't know. Have not paid attention, but yeah, someone did start kind of working on that. But I really fucking loved that first Aim for the Ace movie.
Yes. And that movie is interesting because it's like, it is kind of a compilation, but it's all mostly new animation. So it's like just a new retelling of the manga.
It's like honestly similar to like some of the Eva Rebel stuff where it's like a compilation movie, but not just new footage, not just like edited footage, like they rewrote it to actually make sense on the timescale it works at.
Yeah.
Even if it is basically the like same story.
Yep.
And I don't know. I don't like the part where this is just Aim for the Ace as much as you, because I feel like it robs Aim for the Ace of a lot of like the actual thematic like interest it has, but it's fine.
I mean, Aim for the Ace is like a decade old and a classic. Like it's not harming Aim for the Ace to like make Gunbuster, right?
Sure, but I mean, like if my investment in these characters is less when like this like shitty show like shoujo coach shows up, and Aim for the Ace is like basically about how what he is doing is emotional abuse and the like toll that takes on you, and this can't go into that, so it just kind of feels a bit weird to me.
I mean, Anno's a person who thinks the Bright Slap is cool, so you have to like grade on a curve.
Well, yeah, then maybe I just like fucking want to punch Anno in the face then, I guess.
Yes.
Because I really like Gunbuster, but I come up against a like philosophical disagreement with it about how it clearly thinks the coach is cool and thinks that his like philosophy of extreme self-dependence is like the way to live. I was like, well, what are you talking about?
Also, it's not a parody of that stuff also. Like that coach comes in and is like, I was part of the space war. I think the Admiral's daughter is the one who's going to win the war for us, as he takes off his sunglasses dramatically in a dark room.
Yeah, it's weird. And this show just doesn't have the time. Like, it goes up into space next time, and then like next episode, all of this is forgotten. We got 6 episodes. Let's fucking move.
Yes.
But yeah, aesthetically though, Gainax, goddamn,
all the money.
I feel like everyone who like makes anything should resent Gainax on just like an emotional level, because they're basically just like they're similar to like tech people in the early 2000s. They just happen to be in the right place around time, where like the young people, just like young dudes, got infinite money to make exactly what they wanted, which doesn't happen to anyone.
Also, they were like the nerds who really loved anime, but were like, if we did it, we'd do it better. And they fucking, locked themselves in a room and ate pizza and made the best anime, right? Like,
you're right.
It's such a shitty way to make, like, they're just the John Carmack and John Romero of anime.
Yes, that's it. I went to like fucking like Facebook in my head, but that's more rights.
Yes.
And it just has a level of like opportunity that none of their successors will ever get because the industry changed. Like, the opportunity to make Gunbuster is a very unique thing, and they do a sick job.
Also, the Gainax arc is like, 10 years and they're out. Like, they can't do this forever,
right? But like, because they make Gainax, they make Gunbuster, but they're at the same, like, this is Anno's thing, but this is like the Gainax backup thing, because they're putting all their chips on Royal Space Force, the Wings of Honeyamase.
Yes.
At this moment, which does not go as well. Do I like more than No. Do I like more than Gunbuster?
No,
I don't know.
Gunbuster's better than Royal Space Force. You fucking kidding me?
Yeah. I like the last 5 minutes of Royal Space Force more than almost anything, but the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But so like the way Gainax goes is just a very strange, unique thing that could never happen again.
Yes.
And all the money is on screen.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes you're just like overly skilled and it's obnoxious, right? This is like the Gona guy made Devilman his blow off for Mazinger Z.
Right. Like, fuck you.
Yeah. It's like, shut the fuck up.
The way that I like assume people just feel about the like opportunities Gainax got are the same way that I assume, this is just a very obnoxious video game reference, but you know how like IO Interactive must have felt getting like cut by Square Enix, like looking at Nomura's career?
Yes.
Like some people they just have it.
Yeah.
And so but it's sick though. It's a sick show.
Yeah.
Should we go to episode 2?
Oh, no, we should go to voice actors.
God damn it, did it again. Every time. What are the voice actors in Gunbuster?
So I did 3 of the like 6 people who are important in Gunbuster. Noriko Takaya is voiced by Noriko Hidaka, which is not confusing at all to me writing this thing. And she voices Minami Asakura in Touch, which Touch is maybe the anime of like the 80s era that I need to know about most. I feel like it's the thing that's really important, but I know fucking nothing about it. Mm-hmm. She is Satsuki in My Neighbor Totoro. She is Jinrock Raltik in Nadia Secret of Blue Water, which is the Anno thing I really need to go and see at some point. I have it on Blu-ray. I should just watch it. She voices Nier in Death Note.
Yeah.
She is Kurapika in Hunter x Hunter, Hunter x Hunter. I've watched it. I still do this. 1998. She is Shalnark in Hunter x Hunter 2011. She is the Dominator's voice in Psycho-Pass, which we talked about last week on this very show. Mm-hmm. And she is the voice of Claudia Strife in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
God. Claudia Strife. I can't believe that she's called Claude Strife. Like, come on.
Kazumi Amano is voiced by Rei Sakuma. She is Shampoo in Ranma 1/2, which I haven't even seen Ranma 1/2. I know who Shampoo is. She is Botako-san in Soreke Anpaman, which is a show that I feel like no one outside of Japan has ever seen, but is still going since the 80s. She is Gigi in Kiki's Delivery Service. She is Nina Purpleton in Stardust Memory. Maybe you've heard of it.
That's a thankless role.
She is a character called Maria Maya in Endless Waltz, which we'll cover when we get to Endless Waltz. She is Leona Ozaki in New Dominion Tank Police, which we covered in one of our side podcasts called Your Uncle's Beach House. New Dominion Tank Police fucking sucks, but it's very funny that she just does like the other version of this character. Like, it's just the same character in a lot of ways.
But significant, man, Dominion Tank Police. Oh.
Yeah. Young Freud, who we'll talk about in a second, is voiced by Maria Kawamura. She is Cham in Dunbine. She is Lilith Frau in Elgheim. She's Beltorchica in Zeta Gundam. She's Quest Pariah in Char's Counterattack. She is Kyoko Zeppelin Soryu in Evangelion. She is also Mami Achida in Utena, but the line of mech shows, and specifically like Tomino Gravity in this list, is incredible.
Tomino having Beltorchica voice Quest is amazing.
Yep.
Would she have voiced both if they made Beltorchica's children?
God.
These are the important questions.
Yes, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
They don't sound alike, so yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, she can do that. All right, well, let's get into episode 2, which is called Daring, the Girl Genius Challenger.
We opened in 2015 when the Luxion fleet was attacked by the space monsters. Admiral Takaya sends an injured Ota into the last escape pod of the Luxion before it blows up. He apologizes to his daughters. The last thing he does. George Kirk's the whole fucking thing.
In the time your father was a Starfleet captain, he saved how many lives. Yeah, absolutely, just the beginning of Star Trek 09, which is coincidentally the only good bit of Star Trek 09.
In 2021, Noriko's shuttle arrives at the space station Silver Star. They're building a new ship called the Exelion to go out into space. Noriko's surprised at how small it is and like, oh no, that's just space relativism. And as they get closer, it just gets bigger and bigger. It's a fucking Star Destroyer that they're building.
Yes. I was like, are you sure it's small? You're not just far away. She's very far away. It's massive.
Yes. As they're going, they pass the Soviets' mech, and inside is the pilot that they meet as soon as they dock, who is Young Freud, who is just like Gremlin Haman Karn. That's just what she looks like. That's just what she acts like. That's just who she is.
Yep.
So the captain of the Exelion, Tatsumi Tashiro, he's introduced, and he is like, yes, this is Young Freud, and she immediately is like rivalry eyes at Kazumi. And they all get a speech, and they're like, okay, we're going to finish the ship, we're going to go attack the space monsters, we're going to get it done. Noriko, Kazumi, and everyone else in the top squadron do space training, and Jung tells Kazumi that it's time for us to have a fight. We're rivals now. Please take off your markers that let them know where we are. We're going to fight. And so they have a big fight. They basically fight to a standstill as Noriko watches aghast as they enter the Exelion. And where they end the battle, they're inside a chamber where a giant space monster body is being stored. And Noriko freaks out that her father was killed by a thing, and it's literally the bit where like Shinji freaks out when the angel looks at him. It's just the same thing.
It is basically the exact same thing.
We'll continue to point out the part where Hideaki Anno, a man who invented nothing, also steals from himself with the verve that Tomino himself does.
Yes.
It's honestly a commendable trait to me, so it's fine. I'm not mad about it. Oda yells at both of them. He's like, look, we could have thrown you in the brig for this. It was against regulations. Unfortunately, I need you to win a space war, so we can't throw you in the brig. You're just in trouble. You're on probation.
I'm just mad at you. That's gotta have to be enough.
Yeah. Noriko and Kazumi go and take a bath, and Noriko's explaining about how, like, oh, my father was always away in space, but he always came back for my birthday. We're about to find out that that's, like, weirdly tragic, because that means that he's constantly leaving to go back for her birthday out in space because of relativism.
Yes.
And they're having this conversation, just like, girls hanging out. Jung rocks in just completely naked, going like, yes, 0G makes my boobs float.
God damn it. I mostly find the fact that everyone is just like tits out in this show mostly charming. Like, there's an honesty to it that I much prefer than like the shots where it's like a pretty good scene but we're staring up Asuka's shirt in Eva.
Yes.
Like, if you're going to just make your pervy anime, just do it. But the part where they then have to have dialogue for it's like, 0G, it has affected my bra in the following ways. It's like, come on. You already have 6 episodes of scenes here.
I'm like, none of the people writing the show have ever worn a bra. They don't know how they work. Stop it, knock it off.
This is what happens when, like, you let a 23-year-old man become rich very successful.
Yep. Anyway, she is just like super friendly now. She's like, oh yeah, we got it out of our system. I just want to fight because you seem sick as hell. Turns out you're sick as hell, so we can just be friends. I'd like you both to come to my birthday party. And they're like, okay, when is it? And she's like, oh, it's like the day after the month after next. And Noriko does the math. And it's like, wait, that's the same day as my birthday. And it's like, oh, that's great. You know that coach you got? He's really hot. Do you think he'd come to my birthday party?
Yeah. Can I have the ridiculous shoujo man at my birthday party? Which, fair enough.
Yep. And then in their giant bathhouse, which has a giant window that opens out into space inexplicably, a bunch of boys in their robot pass by and they're all like, oh, naked girls. And they all cover up and scream because anime tropes had no tropes. Era or season.
That's true. They have always been. They are eternal.
Yep. The space shuttle, the space station detects an object approaching near light speed, and they're like, we should go investigate. They're going to send out 2 of the robots on light speed boosters to check it out. Ota's like, send Noriko and Kazumi. Like, young Freud's better at this. Like, yes, but they need the experience going at light speed or whatever. And so they're doing that. By which I mean the robots sit on giant rockets like horses and are about to be launched out to space. And then Ota explains relativism, where as they are approaching light speed, time dilation happens, and for every minute they're out there, 3 months will pass on Earth. So they have to get this done quickly, or the entire world's going to pass them by. And they're like, shit, we agreed to go to Young's birthday party. We need to make sure we get this on the dot, and we'll show up like the day before her birthday party. And if we fuck this up, we're going to miss it. And I'm like, well, I know how this is going to go then.
Yes.
Noriko and Kazumi launch. Oda follows another ship. They catch up to the mysterious ship, and it turns out it's the remains of the Luxion. Whoops. Oda's like, don't let Noriko on the ship. She immediately like leaps off of her rocket and climbs onto the ship and gets inside. As they're exploring it, it turns out that there's like still air in here, because despite it being like 8 years since this happened, 6 years. It's just been like 2 days since the battle where her father was killed happened. She's like, does that mean my dad's still alive on here somewhere? And she runs through the ship only to go to the bridge and see that the bridge has just been voided to space. There's no bridge there anymore. Bad time. Oda grabs her, drags her off the ship. They are recovered, and it turns out that they were 12 seconds late, which, despite the fact they gave a very concrete time scale last time, means that it's been 6 months and not like 2 months and 2 weeks like it should be or whatever.
Yeah, because didn't they say like a minute for, they did this, but whatever, it's fine.
Look, this anime cares about science as far as it makes the anime cool, and not 1 second beyond that.
Yes.
So they come back, and the Exelion's done. Young's not even mad. It's been months since her birthday. And she's like, I'm sorry about your father. And Noriko cries and runs off. And Kazumi's like, you have to understand, it might have been months for you, but it's literally like been an hour since we saw the, place where he died. Noriko thinks about how this meant her father actually returned for her birthday, just like he promised, and is very sweet about it. And remembers that when she was young, she was like, I'm going to go into space and be a space fighter like my father. And she's doing it. She's living her dream. The end.
Yeah, the end.
This episode's fucking great.
It's a great episode, yeah.
The time dilation stuff's just such a good gimmick. I liked it in Interstellar, which is like a bad movie, right? This being in a good anime makes it even cooler. It's
just sick.
Yeah.
As a plot point, as a like way to create, it's just like free emotional. Tension's the wrong word, but just like emotional content for your story.
Yeah.
You don't even have to like do anything. Just that it happens. Time passes differently, and thus there is tension.
Yes. Just the nature of different characters perceive time differently is a melodrama machine. Like,
yes.
Infinite melodrama comes out of that idea.
You barely have to do any work. You don't have to like really contrive situations or conflict. That just makes it just inherently that.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yes.
But also we get, like, young Freud shows up, and she's just one of my favorite characters in anime.
I like young Freud for many reasons, not the least of which is that she kind of spits in the face of the narrative people like to tell about Eva, which is that someone handed him a book on Freud halfway through.
Yes.
And
But also, she's the Soviet mecha pilot, but her name is Young Freud, and also she's like Gremlin Haman Karn. Like, she's just like, literally shows up, I'm Queen of Space, but I'm gonna be your friend anyway, because I'm just that cool. And it's not like a feint, she's just nice. She's just walks in, she's nice.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that she's just like the haughty girl who turns out to be nice.
She's good. She's great. But basically, classic Gunbuster character, Young Freud.
Yes.
She's cool, Young Freud.
Yes. Her and Kazumi having their duel is incredible, especially since like the way in which they pilot the robot is to just do like punching motions at each other. Like there's this weird absurdity of, to pilot the robot fighting, you basically mimic fighting motions, but in like the least cool way possible, but at maximum effort. That like is like, it's interesting in that it makes piloting seem incredibly dorky, but also incredibly hard at the same time.
Yeah, they're just like pulling their arms back and forth, but
Yes.
like pretty extremely.
Yeah.
It's a weird choice, but I think it works.
Yeah. But it is ridiculous because the fight is like an incredibly choreographed battle, but then they're both just doing rock'em sock'em robots in their cockpits at each other.
Which is like a very different approach to like, because Gundam focuses like a weird amount on the ability to control it. Like as Zeta goes on, it's like you got this cockpit, you got the pedals, you got all these things. Like it's very complicated in the control, but this is just like no, it's just like you gotta like become one with your arm movements.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's all I have for this episode.
Yeah, it's a good show. We're already a third of the way through because 6 episode shows.
Yeah. So this episode went on really long. Didn't mean for that to happen, but
Sorry.
there you go.
There we go. Two shows.
We will be back next week. If you are listening to this on YouTube or on Patreon for free, next episode will be behind the paywall. We put these out every week. They're $1 a month. I think they're well worth it for what we do. So if you like this at all, please support us. It keeps the lights on and food on our table in hard times. This is Jackson's major income. I support my family off of my day job in this, so we get it done. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll continue on. We'll do all this stuff. We have some guests coming up at the back half of the season that I'm excited for, and all of that. So please look forward to it. Until then, Jackson, where can people find you?
You can find me at headfulsoff on twitter.com. If you would so desire, you can find other podcasts that me and Em do at abnormapping.com, including Abnormapping, which is our game club. It's a cool podcast if you've not listened to it.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at EM_being. If you'd like to listen to the other free episodes of Great Gundam Project, which are all the first episodes of any season, also our Char's Counterattack episode is free. You can go to timetogoax.is, where we have them all listed. If you'd like to listen to us talk about anime, otherwise, things that are not Gundam, we have a side podcast. It's mostly our patrons at a certain tier can get us to watch stuff. You can find that at your uncle's beach house on the Abnormal Mapping website. If you'd like to follow the Gundam, our Great Gundam Project Twitter account, it's at Time to Go Axis. It's mostly a bunch of shit posts. More people follow that than listen to this podcast, which is really weird, but that's the thing we've cultivated. So,
yeah. That is true. We do have more followers than patrons.
If you want to see my wretched Gundam Wing memes, they're on there.
I guess I will, out of politeness, see your wretched Gundam. I don't have a choice, so I will end up seeing your wretched Gundam Wing memes.
Thank you for listening. Tell your friends if you haven't. If you're a patron, get people retweet this one. Tell people to listen to our podcast. I think it's a pretty good show. I'm excited for this season.
Me too.
And until next time. Amuro.
Amuro.
「いろんなことに巡り